Hello and welcome back to Bookish and welcome back to what I'm making Tag Thursday. I had a video I wanted to do on Tuesday, so I did that instead of doing this tag. This is the another random questions tag. It was created by the wonderful, spectacular James Holder. I'll leave a link to his channel and his original down below. Please go check out his channel and his version of this video. And you know, it asks 15 random questions about BookTube, about book reading habits, and you know, since I'm so clearly fascinating, I thought I would do this tag, you know, let you in on some of the insights that are, you know, all about me. So question number one, what is a book you don't want to admit you hate or dislike? I'm not sure I'm afraid to admit it, but I probably don't bring it up very often. I really hated Pilgrim at Tinker Creek by Annie Dillard. I read that with my son when he was in high school. He was involved in academic competition, and that was the book they had to read, and so I read it when he read it, just to kind of know what was going on, and it was a chore, and it really put me off nature writing for a while. I won't go into, you know, all the words I might use to describe the book, but let's just say it wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy it, and I've never read anything else by Annie Dillard since, which, by the way, has a bearing on the question later. Prompt number two, are there authors whose works you haven't gotten on with that you want to revisit? I'm just going to say Russians. I haven't read successfully very many Russian authors. Only read Notes from Underground, I believe. It's the title that I read it under by Dostoevsky. Have read Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, which probably be my last Tolstoy. And I did read and really liked The Master and Margarita by Bulgakov, which I thought was great. Other than that, I struggle with Russians, and I'm not joking when I tell you part of the problem is that it just frustrates me that every character has to have 3 names. I have a hard enough time keeping up with names of characters as it is, and having to figure out which of 3 names, you know, somebody's being referred to as really taxes my patience. Question 3. Is your TBR outlined or pantsed? It's outlined with pantsing space. How's that? Generally speaking, I know what I'm going to read in a month. In like the upcoming month, I have an idea of what I'm going to read. Sometimes it's more flexible, sometimes it's not. But you know, if I find a book, or if I see somebody recommend a book which sounds great to me, you know, I'll jump right in and go ahead and add that. So I would say I start off with an outline and then I add things as I go. Prompt 4, what is your favorite BookTube reading experience? I think probably for the most part, other than the one that I'm involved in, which is Faulkner in August, I would say I really like Victober. I have fun doing my Victober Bro Code videos every year, which is kind of a tradition. I like Nonfiction November. Let's see. I've always participated in Jane Austen July a little bit. Probably last year my favorite one, though, was Women in Translation Month. I also loved the Skoden read-along. Just a whole lot of great events, and I am kind of like have an inability to say no to those events. As you know, I always read for Black History Month as well. Prompt 5, how many works does it take to decide if you like or dislike an author's work? Normally I would say 2, but I just mentioned Annie Dillard, which was 1, so probably closer to 1. If I have a really bad experience with an author, it takes a lot for me to think about giving them another shot. Prompt 6, which of the deadly sins do you experience the most? You know, I think somebody else pointed this out. I think maybe it was Greg over at Another Bibliophile Reads pointed out that, you know, we all probably, most of us at least, maybe most men, engage in those 7 deadly sins. I'm going to go with pride. I think that my pride probably gets me in more trouble than anything else. It's the thing I struggle with the most. You know, not to go too deep into my psyche, but generally speaking, I find that my pride gets the best of me. I do something I wish I hadn't done, and then that's followed by a period of self-loathing. When I get over that, I return to being too prideful, and so on. It is a definite pattern, and that's something I do actually strive to work on. Prompt 7, which of the Olympian gods is your favorite? Hades, of course, or what's he called in Pluto in Roman mythology? I'm going to go with Hades. When I was a kid, way back in the 1970s, some friends of mine and I had a Greek mythology club called the Mount Olympus Club, and we met along the side of a railroad track. I know, how hillbilly does this sound? There's a big gravel pile on the side of the railroad tracks, which we called Mount Olympus. and one person was Zeus, one was Poseidon, which was odd because there's no body of water around, and then I was Hades, and I chose third, so I picked Hades because he was kind of, one of the three biggies, I thought at the time. And I also like the fact that he and Zeus didn't always get along, and he seemed to have his own area, his own realm, and so I like that, even though obviously darker overtones there. Prompt 8. What is your special event meal? I think I've answered this question before, and I'm just going to say sushi. I don't really have a special event meal, but when my son and I go out and eat sushi, it's a special event. So the meal itself is the special event because we both really enjoy it. And we spend a whole lot of money, eat a whole lot of sushi, and it's kind of an event in and of itself. Prompt 9. Do you attend local celebrations, fairs, festivals, markets, etc.? The only one that I consistently attend is the Texas Renaissance Festival, which is held just north of Houston. I live on the south side of Houston, and we, up until COVID, and then last year we didn't go. Also, we've gone every year. Particularly like to go for the weekend they call Scottish Fling or the Highland Fling. I wear a kilt. If I can remember, if I have a picture, I'll put the picture of me in the kilt up here as well. And my wife and I have a really good time. We sometimes embarrass my son or whoever happens else to show up, but we do go to that and have a really good time. Let's see, prompt 10. Do you prefer the city, suburbs, small towns, or the country? So I live in the suburbs. I used to live in a small city when I grew up. I have lived kind of in the city, I guess technically. For the most part, what I would say is I would love to live in the country, but near enough a city where I could get there in a reasonable amount of time. That would be my favorite, to be able to have a piece of property, not too big, but big enough, maybe with a fishing pond on it, maybe where I had to ride one of those gators or heavy-duty golf carts around from time to time, but from which I could access a city with bookstores and an airport easily if I wanted to travel, and some cultural things. That would be kind of my ideal. So I think that's cheating a little bit, but that's my answer. Prompt 11. Are there any BookTube videos you have a hard time making? The top 10 list I make at the end or at the beginning of each year, top 10 books, works of fiction for 2022, nonfiction, etc. Those are the hardest because you kind of have to come up with, it's hard to narrow down the books, and then it's hard to come up with something to say about each of the books that makes them seem equal. And sometimes it's kind of hard to find that 10th book. I kind of contemplated only having 9 on my nonfiction list this year, but did think of the 10th. I think it belonged on the list. So that's hard to make, and I have to script those and make sure I actually do 10 books. Otherwise, I'll forget. Let's see. Prompt 12, are you interested in local history? Yes. The community I live in now, despite being a suburb, is somewhat unique. It's founded as a religious colony of a sorts. I grew up in a small city in East Texas, in one of the only East Texas counties in Texas that voted against seceding from the Union in the lead up to the Civil War. It's also the place where writer Catherine Ann Porter's first husband was from what I call my hometown, the place where I grew up. Prompt 13, what subjects were your favorite in school? No surprise here. History, I'm going to say political science, English literature, or just literature. Those are my favorites. Prompt 14, if you could go back in time and change one thing about your life, what it would be, I would be kinder. Sooner, I would work harder on being kinder a lot more of the time. Still something I have to work on. Prompt 15, are there any childhood entertainments that you still engage in? Probably, but not on a regular basis. The thing I think of from childhood that I enjoy the most is something I really haven't done for probably the last 12 or 13 years, but I love to play catch. I love to throw a baseball back and forth with somebody and play catch. There's just something about the satisfaction of catching the ball and throwing it accurately, and I don't know, that's probably what I would say. There's probably something else I'm forgetting. I'm kind of like a big kid, but I can't think of anything else right now off the top of my head. Anyway, there you go. There's the another random questions tag. As I said, thanks to James for creating this tag. I'll leave a link to his down below. Oh, I forgot I was going to tag some people. I'm going to tag, let's see, I'm going to tag Alan from Big Hard Books and Classics. I'm going to tag Katie from Katie's Shelf Life. I'm going to tag Shannon from Shannon's, let's see, Shannon's Bookish Musings and Music. I want to tag Greg from Supposedly Fun, and I'm going to tag Karen from the Roving Reader. Anyway, there you go. There's the tag. Look forward to your comments in the comment section below. As always, thank you for watching.